What's up, guys? Finally able to get live. It's been a long time since I've live streamed, but I've got some reaction requests to get into. How are you guys doing? Give a few more minutes, let people get in here. Y'all let me know if the sound is okay, if you can hear everything well. We're gonna get settled. Let's see. Tiago Alcantara. Did I say that right? Tiago Alcantara? Cantara? So sweet. So here's what we're gonna do. I've already got some requests that came in from channel members, so we're gonna have those on the list. And give me 1 second. I'm going to be experimenting with doing doing this for how I film my content coming up because little life update. I'm back in this is my final semester of school before I graduate and get my degree. And so this semester I have to write my senior thesis. And so um, I'm going to experiment by doing reactions via live stream because I found a way to fit it into my schedule, hopefully, that I could do this pretty regularly. Come on, do a live stream, film some reactions, and then have the content already recorded and ready to go out. So that's probably what I'm going to be doing. Sound is good. Thiago was class, but by the time he came to Liverpool, he was made of glass. Okay. Um, world class Spanish midfielder. Okay. He said the system era collapse is collapsing is a great video. Yeah, that one's up. I got that one from a member, channel member. Spurs versus City 2019. Are you guys gonna troll me with these kinds of things, or is that actually a good one? In fact, what we're gonna do here, I'm breaking up into sections of different types of reactions I could do. I'm actually gonna start. This is how I'm gonna start this because I've had some time process the Leicester City loss, and now we're gonna. I've got to figure something out, guys. I know he can't do it, but uh, I got to get rid of this guy. Is what I've got to do. I haven't done the Messi era yet. I think I did do the Messi era early on. Lisbon Lions Rabona TV video. Am I Ange still in? Yeah, I think I am. I'm actually behind Ange. I'm a little frustrated with his lack of ability to have to be flexible. But I was reading something the other day. I think it was one of my subscribers was saying that Ange is sticking to his guns because he's trying to create a system. And if you try to create a system, you've got to stick to your guns no matter what players you've got. It might mean that you finish lower on the table in the early stages, but you have got to drill your system. If you change your philosophy in order to gain some points on the table, you're going to be a mid-table team, and you're never going to be able to get that system implemented. So I like Ange, and I think he's a good coach, but I don't think the coach is the problem. As I've just started to get into the history of this, and I realize that we've had what is it like 16 managers in 24 years or something like that? It's just like it's a revolving door of managers that come through. And so I think the problem is at the top. Tottenham supporters have urged Daniel Levy to resign after news of proposed move for Southampton. See, my thing is we spend so much on everything except players. Like, fantastic stadium, really, really super cool. Finances are doing great for the club, and yet he doesn't want to pay for players. And right now, the squad is so thin because of injuries, and the guys are only going to get they're only going to get more injured because the current squad depth, we don't even have enough fit players to play. So they're only going to keep getting more injured because you got to play them, run them into the ground. Now that's where I think Ange has some responsibility because he could change his tactics up for sure. Can't be 16th though. Yeah, I understand. I just don't think he would be 16th if we could pay for some players. That's what I think. Greetings from Greece. Welcome in. Bezos out. Yeah, he does look like Jeff Bezos. That's funny. Is Corey happy with Newcastle? I really don't know. I don't know where Corey's at as far as his football fan. I know he's still a football fan. I just don't know where he's how he's doing. He and I talk somewhat regularly, but he's so busy these days. Palki Barsi, I reacted to him recently. I did a highlight video for him. All right, let's move on. Let's start some of the reactions because I'm wasting time here just chatting with you guys. Been a long time since I've done a live stream, so this is actually really fun to chat with you guys. Someone says, to be fair, Mourinho got sacked a week before a cup final because he refused to join the Super League. Yeah. And I mean, he was doing great things. How does anyone talk about any other team but Barcelona right now? It's mainly because I'm a Spurs fan, so that's why I'm talking about him. But by the way, Barcelona has been fun to watch. That is for sure. Well, I watch all the 18. I can't tomorrow because I've got, like I said, I'm back in class actually. I might be able to. We'll see. We'll see. I might be able to arrange that. Let's get into the first reaction video. Oh, this is a long one. All right, we're gonna learn the history of tactics here. This is a request. I'm gonna say without audio, Ronaldo Nazario greatest dribbling skills and goals ever. Okay, so here's the thing. We're gonna have to figure out. Let me tweak. We're gonna be tweaking some things because this is gonna be the new format during the semester while I'm trying to get school finished. We're gonna have to figure out a way to that I don't miss your reaction requests. So I've got a document where I'm adding requests. How about if you guys have a request for a video, once the video is done, once we're done with the reaction video, I'll have a short window between the next video where I'll take requests and add them to the document, and maybe that's what we'll do. All right. So, and we'll see how that works. Maybe there's a different system, and we'll figure it out as we try this new format. But here we go. Let me get a good intro in here. All right, we are doing the entire history of football tactics. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube later, this is live right now. I've got a handful of subscribers live with me, and we're doing reactions right now. So let's get into the entire history of football tactics.
What if we rewind the clock to nearly 170 years? Now look at these. It was an era when formations used to look like rugby, and every player in the system seems to be like strikers. And these strikers...
Yeah, give me a second. I knew there would be problems here. I have this formatted very weird. There we go. All right. Let's start that over again.
When you think of football tactics from the last 20 years, these are the visuals that probably comes to your mind. However, what if we rewind the clock to nearly 170 years? Now look at these.
Wow.
It was an era when formations used to look like rugby, and every player in the system seems to be like strikers. And these strikers rarely passed the ball and just
I think I remember when I first started getting into the game, watching I watched a Netflix show about the English game, I think it was called, and they ran in like packs. And it was really funny to watch. Like you'd see just this whole like mob of people moving at once trying to progress the ball forward.
dribbled straight to score the goal. So, how did we then get from that to this? This is the story of the most influential evolution in football history. A nearly 200 years history that brought various unknown and weird tactics that still affects our modern game. From the chaotic kick and run to ultra defensive park the bus, from the iconic pyramid to the inspirational WMs, and from that revolutionary total football to the more artistic tiki-taka.
Tiki Taka.
So how did all these evolution took place? And what exactly were these historic tactics that I'm talking about? So let's dive into the beautiful story of our beautiful game.
I wonder how much I wonder how much he relied on this book right here for the research on this video. This book has been I haven't finished it. I have come back to it in phases, but this book has been really, really helpful in uh, trying to understand some of the tactics.
Before we dive into the story, let me introduce the sponsor that made this entire video possible. As football becoming more and more of a mind game than before, players really need to improve their decision makings and game intelligence to become a complete footballer in this day and age. And this is where Be Your Best is providing a perfect blend of sports and technology to help footballers like you to enhance these cognitive skills. With over 800 real-life
Wait,
scenarios, you can
is this a yeah, it's an ad. All right. We're skipping the ad. Sorry about that. Is the volume need to be up? My bad, guys.
To truly understand why old tactics used to look like
How's
these,
that?
first we need to know the rules of football during that era. At that time, any player in front of the ball carrier was considered offside and couldn't receive a pass. This meant that no forward passes were allowed and the ball could only be played.
Okay, we got to back that up. That's interesting.
To truly understand why old tactics used to look like these, first we need to know the rules of football during that era. At that time, any player in front of the ball carrier was considered offside and couldn't receive a pass. This meant that
Wow.
no
So this really was kind of like rugby. No forward passes. We have to pass backwards.
forward
Right.
passes were allowed, and the ball could only be played sideways or backward. As a result, teams adopted formations like these, where they formed a horizontal
Yeah.
train of players, and the ball carrier's main task was to dribble as far as possible and use his strength and skills to score.
Wow, it's so much like rugby. Uh, it's get as far as you can, try to make a lateral pass or pass backward, and make another run. Wow.
And if he gets stopped, he'd simply kick the ball forward for a teammate to chase. So at this point, passing the ball was not a thing in football and was more like an individual war with rough tackles coming from
Huh.
all sides. But in 1872, something unusual happened. It was the year when the first ever international match was played between England and Scotland, where
Scotland. It was the Scottish who introduced passing. I think, at least, now, I can't get all my history from a Netflix drama, but in the English game, it was Fergus Suter who brought kind of that, the spacing and passing game into football tactics. But we'll see.
England set up in their normal 1-1-8 formation, which was all about individual brilliance. However, Scotland took a more defensive approach during that time, and using
All right, so we've got a little comment in the chat. Some teams used to play rugby rules for one half and then association football rules in the second half. That's super interesting. And Daily Dose of Football. Wait, is this the Daily Dose of Football? Is that you? Are you in my chat? That's crazy. Rugby originated from football. Yeah, yeah, because association football was the original game. But I mean, but it's taken so many iterations that it's kind of for me it's been kind of hard to track down all the history on that. Um, Scotland invited the passing game. We invented modern football. Yeah.
They actually started passing the ball amongst themselves and move as a cohesive
Yeah, see, I keep bringing up the English game. That's where this footage is coming from. And that was Fergus Suter right there.
unit. This surprised everyone, including their own fans, as for the first time, the ball is being moved systematically across the pitch, rather than simply being booted
Okay.
up and down. And this unusual scene slowly gave rise to the art of passing and teamwork over raw individualism. And to complement this, things started to change with the introduction of the first offside rule. And this new rule allowed players to receive forward passes as long as there were 3 opponents, and this includes the goalkeeper as well.
Okay.
This boosted the importance of passing even more, and teams began to invent more balanced system that focused on midfield control. So the
Okay.
older system then evolved into a pyramid where one of the forward dropped into the midfield and acted as a multi-skilled all-rounder who not only deliver creative passes but also score goals like a forward as well as defend when necessary. So due to the flexible midfield, this gave much-needed freedom to the forwards to fully focus on scoring goals, while both defenders could concentrate on protecting the goal. As when we look at the previous systems, every player was required to perform all tasks, which drained their energies and resulted in frequent goalless games. However,
And you know that. We don't want goalless games or else the Americans won't get involved.
over time, due to the static positioning of the forwards and defenders, the pyramid became too predictable and rigid. So someone has to come up with more flexible solution, and this is where this man Jimmy Hogan stepped in and came with the idea that just like midfielders, why not make the forwards flexible and make them do up and down movements? As a result, instead of being in a rigid position, he allowed forwards to roam around the pitch and target the spaces between the opposition shape. This made the pyramid more flexible and unpredictable, as it forces the opposition's defenders to get out of their zonal position and leave out space behind for others to target. So taking inspiration from him, many legendary teams like Austria's Wunder Team and Hungary's Golden Team achieved greatest success in global stages. And as more teams began dominating games through passing and leveraging the attacking overload of the pyramid, unfortunately, there was less evolvement happening in the defensive tactics, so rules were really needed to make the game more balanced and equal. As a result, in 1925, the new offside rule allowed the players to be onside as long as only 2 opposition were in front.
I guess that makes sense. The game is going to evolve as the rules are added and changed because the tactics shape around the rules. That's really interesting. So this is how wingers became goal scorers. I got you.
Of him. This rule hugely impacted the game, and things started to change really fast. Suddenly, older systems were looking like an open gateway to concede, and teams were in a hurry to adopt more balanced shape defensively. So back in England, in order to counter this new rule, Arsenal's coach Herbert Chapman reshaped the old pyramid, where he moved his 2 deeper defenders wider and transformed his center mid into a third center back, who can also join the midfield when needed, much like how Pep used John Stones in Man City. So when you connect these deeper players with a line...
Speaking of Man City, what happened to them this season? I've heard some things about Pep off the field, off the pitch. That's probably got him distracted, obviously. But man, have Man City fallen off this season. Crazy.
line, it forms a M-like shape. However, with the multi-skilled all-rounder now turned as a defender, there was a lack of creativity in the midfield. So to solve this, out of the 5 attackers, Chapman also pulled his 2 inside forwards deeper into the midfield and turned them into the main playmakers. This gave rise to the WM formation, a shape that introduced the early prototype of modern number 10s and double pivots. And when you closely look at this, it provides a perfect balance with 5 attackers and 5 defenders. And when you play this against a pyramid, the 4 midfielders creates a box-like pattern and easily outnumbers their 3-man midfielders. And even Pep Guardiola adopted some aspects of this by using inverted fullbacks or advancing center backs within his 4-3-3. This helped him to utilize the box midfield advantage while still having width from the wingers. And as a result, from the mid-20s till the early 50s, the WM started to gain popularity around the world as a new blueprint to counter the offside rule. And looking at its popularity, new variations started to emerge in order to tackle its dominant midfield box. So in the 30s, Italian coach Vittorio Pozzo came up with an idea to why not reverse the M of the WM system and eventually create a WW shape. And when you compare this shape with the WM, it overloads the midline and can tackle its box midfield. And interestingly, when you again look at this shape shape clearly, it closely resembles to the modern-day 4-3-3 structure, but with older
Hmm.
positions. So at this point, the WMs and WW started to widespread throughout the football landscape, and by the 1950s, more and more teams started to give equal importance to the defensive side of the game, which eventually led to one more midfielder joining the defense and giving birth to the back four. And with a strong defensive shape, it then evolved into the iconic 4-2-4 system. And this same system was the highlighting part of Brazil's insane domination in the World Cups from the 50s to the 70s.
Classic
And
footage,
when you
man.
observe this shape closely,
I just got to take a moment to say I really wish we had more footage of Pele uh, actually playing the game. And it's such a legend, and so much of what he did, we don't have footage of it. We can't go back and watch it. We can only go off the legend of it.
the presence of a strong back four allowed the forwards to turn their full attention to hammering the oppositions without worrying about the defense. And the two center mids were like the additional supporters, who can step up to create a six-man attack or drop deep to form a six-man defense. This provided a perfect balance on both the areas. However, in doing so, it often left this particular side empty. So to counter this emptiness, taking inspiration from Jimmy Hogan's fluid positionings, Brazil's 4-2-4 was more like an asymmetric structure where a lot of positional rotations were happening. For instance, at any moment, one player could drop deep to draw defenders out, while another made a forward run to exploit the vacated space.
So is this kind of? I'm guessing this is sort of the beginning of kind of the freedom of the game. We would have that. We have that to thank for a lot of like the Brazilians, the Spanish, like they have the more relationist tendencies. Is that what we're getting into? The beginning of sort of a relationism tactic?
So these random rotations and interchanges made it nearly impossible for opposition defenses to predict their movements. And as a result, this unpredictability made Brazil almost unstoppable during that era,
Fluidity.
who destroyed every opposition on their way to winning the World Cup. With professional systems becoming standard across many teams, there were still semi-professional clubs that lacked the structured training and tactical depth to play against these tactics. And one such club was Swiss side Servette, which was looking for a more defensive system. So their manager Karl Rappin came up with an interesting idea, where instead of a traditional back four, he pulled his one center back deeper, while one forward also dropped deep as a third midfielder, eventually creating an unusual 1-3-3 shape. And that last player acted as a so-called spare defender for Karl. For example, when the ball was played to one side and the center back shifted right to cover the fullback, it may freeze up the central striker as an open receiver. So this spare man would then step up into the vacated position to provide security. This is just like applying a safety chain on a door. So with the presence of an extra defender, combined with compact three lines, could frustrate
Mhm.
the attack-minded teams to break them down. And as a result, Karl achieved great results with his club and was later appointed as a
Wow.
national coach of Switzerland, where he replicated this success on the international stage. And after seeing its success, the style became extremely popular among their southern neighbors, Italy, where they even named it as catenaccio, meaning the door chain. And that spare man was then known as the libero, or the sweeper, who not only filled defense.
It's like the when I was learning about Italian football, I guess Catenaccio was like the rage. Was it the 80s and uh man for a long time, for decades. Uh and so yeah, this is getting to the point where the tactics that I've kind of learned about now, we're getting to the point where I've kind of spent some time with this.
Defensive gaps, but also initiated counterattacks with precise passes from deep. However, instead of sticking to the 1-3-3 shape, the Italians refined it by adding one more midfielder to the backline and eventually create a 1-4-2-3 or a 1-4-3-2 system. And now with 5 players at the back,
Mhm.
Italian Catenaccio provided a numerical superiority over the widely used 4-2-4. Also, the deep positioning of the system naturally attracted almost all the opposition's players
Right.
forward, leaving huge spaces behind them to explore.
It's beautiful for counterattacking because I I go back and forth so much on this channel. You guys have seen me, like, I love putting all your more players forward. Ange Ball. I love the amount of goals scored from uh, a high press and throwing more players forward at the defense. So uh, and playing possession, I really love that. But there is something really beautiful about this, where you have such a thick defensive line that you attract the opposition into your half, and then you exploit the space behind them. It can be absolutely lethal, even though it's not my preferred tactic. I can really appreciate the beauty of it.
Exploit with long balls. And as a result, by the late 50s and 60s, Catenaccio became one of the most effective tactical systems. While it may be less entertaining to the eye, but it did the job of defeating the top attacking systems of its time.
Italian defenses
Hmm.
they're known for their defending, you know.
They're known for their defending.
They're horrible to play against, honestly.
However,
Wow.
from the early 70s, suddenly the trend shifted back toward attacking football, as it was the rise of one of the most influential tactics in football
Cruyff.
history.
Total football.
Many
The foundation for all of the systems. Well, that's interesting. I can't wait to get to that next reaction that was suggested about how systems are fading, because I do feel like we might be at a point where football tactics are changing again. Uh, because Johan Cruyff is the foundation for total football, which is the foundation for Pep system, for a lot of people, the way a lot of managers play. And so interesting to see. I'll be interested when we get to that reaction, how much how much this is changing. But yeah, Johan Cruyff puts a stranglehold on tactics for the next several decades.
Many believe Johan Cruyff was the creator of total football, but it was actually his Ajax coach Rinus Michels who brought this style into attention in the 70s. And when you look at the formation, just like Karl Rappen's Catenaccio, it began as a 1-3-3 shape. However, instead of a rigid sweeper, Rinus allowed this player to step into midfield during attacks, eventually forming a 3-4-3 shape. Also at this point, positional rotations were still limited, with only specific players interchanging to create spaces. But Rinus took Jimmy Hogan's fluid principles to a whole new level, where he allowed for a complete positional rotation within his system. So now any player can move into any positions as long as the basic structure is maintained. This made the system almost impossible to predict for the oppositions, and consistently created spaces within their structure.
In the beginning, that was something where people laughed about, because they didn't understand that it was football. And until it had the results, and people enjoyed it, people loved it, and now it's a fantastic word.
Also, while attacking, they made their shape as big as possible to spread throughout the pitch. With the purpose was to stretch opposition's shape as well and force them to defend broader areas, resulting in opening up passing lanes to exploit. And on the other hand, while defending they did the opposite. The shape turned as small as possible until it reached the 25-meter line vertically. So this forced the oppositions to attack with the ball within this limited space.
So what is defense? Defense is a question of how much space I have to defend. If I have to defend that whole garden, I'm the worst. If I have to defend this small area, I'm the best. Everything has to do with meters.
So from the 70s till the 90s, attacking football made a huge comeback. However, even with this, surprisingly, the games were still low-scoring and less exciting, just because of the old offside rule, as defensive lines would quickly push their second defender forward to neutralize attacks. So in order to solve this issue, in 1990, the new offside rules stated that a player can also remain onside even against one defenders, as long as he remain level with the second last defender at the moment the ball is released by their teammate. This was not the case.
It's such a complicated worded. Oh, Daniel, yeah, okay. Make the FM24 VODs available on Twitch. I will. I actually, to be transparent, I haven't been streaming much on Twitch recently, so we'll get back to it for sure. And I'll get back to Football Manager 24. I love playing that. It's a lot of fun. You guys teach me a lot. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Really appreciate that. But this rule, this offside rule, when I first got into football, it was probably months of me butchering this rule in my reactions and my live streams, and people kept commenting, "You still don't understand it," and it's just because I guess it's really a difficult one to explain without sounding super complicated like he just did. Um,
Earlier, as the attacker required to be entirely behind two defenders to stay onside. So this change gave a huge advantage to the attacking players, who can now trick the opposition's defense by timing their runs perfectly to stay level with the back line. Also, now having a sweeper at the back turned into an opportunity for attackers to exploit.
By the way, guys, just for those of you who hopped in a little bit later into the stream, we're gonna, after the video is done, I'll have a short window of time where we'll take requests, and I'll put them on a spreadsheet of videos to get to.
And stay onside. So by the mid-90s, many teams started playing a flat back four and brought more attackers into the midfield, eventually creating a 4-4-2 structure. And when you closely look at this, it provides a perfect balance of covering both the flanks and the central areas effectively, which allowed teams to cover almost every part of the pitch. Also during defense, it can morph into an 8-man double wall and can covers all the defensive zones by providing at least 2 players in each areas. So this makes incredibly difficult for any oppositions to break through this. And due to this, the 4-4-2 is still being used by almost all the top sides when they're out of possession. Also, one of the other variation of this was developed by Sir Alex Ferguson. When he recognized with the double pivots have to do the defensive job as well, there was really a lack of central playmaker to support the forwards and provide central creativity. So to achieve this, Sir Alex pulled one of the 2 forwards slightly deeper to act as a link between the forward and midfield. And when you closely observe this variation, it was clearly going to evolve into a modern 4-2-3-1 structure. So by the early 2000s, with the 4-4-2 started to gain popularity around the world, one more variation popped up in Italy's Milan, where Carlo Ancelotti recognized one more major weakness of this system, as when you again observe this shape, apart from giving protection from the wider areas, with only 2 players in the center, it really struggled against a narrow midfield 3. Also due to its flatness and limited number of lines, it became difficult to maintain close proximity with each other all the time, and can result in leaving spaces between the lines for the oppositions to target. So to solve these issues, the diamond had to arrive. So Ancelotti tweaked the horizontal pivot into vertical direction, with the top one becoming the central playmaker, and instead of having wide midfielders, he called them to invert centrally. This gave rise to the 4-4-2 diamond. So now with a midfield of 4 and more defined vertical lines, the diamond effectively addressed the major issues of the 4-4-2 system and helped Ancelotti dominate the early 2000s with AC Milan by reaching multiple Champions League finals. Also, the same diamond midfield later helped him secure the recent Champions League with Real Madrid.
Listen to this atmosphere. It also helps that you manage Real Madrid, because there's something not natural about the amount of Champions Leagues that this team wins. So that helps.
However, when you closely observe the diamond as a critic, there was definitely an elephant in the room. So Ancelotti further modified the diamond into a Christmas tree, where he pulled one of the 2 forward into the number 10 position and spread the midfielders slightly wider to provide better coverage of the flanks.
Interesting.
And when you observe this with a creative lens,
it is a Christmas tree.
Resembled a tree-like shape. So this provided him with some width from the outer midfielders while strengthening the midfield even further with 5 players. And with such a strong midfield, the team not only controlled the central zones but also created numerous triangular passing options that made it easier to launch counterattacks. However, the reason this formation hasn't been widely adopted in modern times actually lies in its limitations. As the lack of attacking numbers and proper width up front, it makes it difficult to stretch the opposition's defense. As a result, it places more pressure on the strikers and the number 10s to break through defensive overloads and deliver goals. Speaking about overloads, around the same time, a rising Portuguese manager was about to introduce a tactical system, a system that would remind you of the old England and Scotland shape, but with an upside-down angle. So this is the time to get into a bus.
Park the bus.
Just defend. And as we say now in my country, they brought the bus and they left the bus in front of the goal.
This was Jose Mourinho, who once criticized Spurs for parking the bus against his team.
Which is hilarious, because he's known for parking the bus, and then he was Spurs manager until he got fired.
But ironically, the same coach later became the poster boy of this style when he famously won titles using it. So by parking the bus typically means all the 11 players in the system essentially takes the role of defenders, where their main goal is to make the area as small as possible and always position themselves zonally. As a result, it gave almost no space for the oppositions to break through and significantly reduce their scoring probability.
So even if you park the bus, we careful. With these three guys, be careful.
Can we have a double-decker bus?
Also, Mourinho instruct his players to not win the ball back intentionally, and instead let the opposition hold possession. As the reason was, if they win
So
the ball
weird.
and started a counterattack, the opposition could try to counter-press them and again regain possession. And now, with that compact shape as being spread out, the oppositions can easily find spaces to score. So the focus was to never lose their positional discipline and maintain the defensive structure at all costs. However, instead of playing this regularly, Mourinho typically used this tactic when protecting a narrow lead.
Yeah. Okay, I can get behind this tactic if it's like I guess that's kind of the way I would think about it. Try to score goals early on, play more attacking, play a little more risky, get the goals scored, and then protect your lead, park the bus. I think lots of teams do that. And that's interesting.
lead or playing in a difficult away leg. And thanks to his strict defensive setup, Mourinho led Inter to an incredible treble in the 2009 and 10 season, where he defeated the unbeatable Barcelona in the process to the Champions League trophy.
Where people say we park the bus, but it's not true. We park the plane, not the bus, the plane.
Wait, I have to address this comment. Mourinho said in defense of parking the bus, if you have a Ferrari and I have a small car, to beat you in a race, I have to break your wheel or put sugar in your tank. That is such a Mourinho is maybe one of my favorite guys in football. Just like his personality and the way I don't know, Mourinho is great.
Also simultaneously, something interesting was happening. The popular 4-4-2 system, which was almost used by 50% of the clubs until 2009, suddenly took a sharp decline to only 12% by 2012. This is the rise of 4-3-3 and tiki-taka.
Tiki-taka.
By the 2010s, there was a significant surge in wingers who weren't traditional crossers, but instead played as forwards who cut inside to score directly. So this trend transformed the role of wide midfielders into that of the inside forward, or wingers. And in order to provide balance, teams began to favor two central mid alongside a single pivot, or applied a number 10 in front of the double pivots.
4-3-3.
And one of that first formation became an integral
Little Cruyffian, well, no, Cruyff was the 3-4-3, but still, it's very similar.
part of the famous tiki-taka football of Barcelona. A system which was originally adapted from total football, eventually evolved from Johan Cruyff, Louis van Gaal, Frank Rijkaard, and ultimately to Pep Guardiola. And when you think of tiki-taka, the first thing comes to the mind is the constant passings among players. However, in reality, tiki-taka
Take the
wasn't
ball,
just
pass
about
the ball.
endless passing. It was also making constant predefined movement that gave those passes a clear purpose. And to ensure this, Pep used to divide the pitch into multiple zones, where he made a rule that only 2 players could occupy the same vertical line, and 3 players could share a horizontal line. And to fix this concept into his player's mind, he
Huh? Okay. Sorry, guys. I suck at math, so I'm going to struggle to figure this one out. Okay. So, think on the fly. You can only have 3 in this zone and 2 in this zone. And you have to think about that during the game. I guess you drill it so much in practice that you don't have to think about it in the game, but that's complicated.
And to fix this concept into his player's mind, he went as far as painting Barcelona's training pitch with these zones, where he tried to make his players practice constantly until their movements and positional play became natural. As a result, when they constantly move into these zones, it creates multiple passing options for the ball carrier to play forward passes and manipulate the opposition's shape at every given time. However, with every systems comes with weaknesses, and one of the reasons why tiki-taka is not widely used by most teams was the demand for technically skilled and intelligent.
The reason it worked so well is because 1, it's a brilliant tactic, but 2, the players you have. I mean, that squad: Xavi, Iniesta, Messi. You had Busquets. You have that midfield there. Yeah, it's just the team was so good that it worked better than anything we've ever seen, probably. They were so dominant.
intelligent players who could thrive in this style. Unfortunately for Pep, at that same time, Barcelona's La Masia Academy produced a generation of world-class talents which was perfectly
Crazy.
suited for this system. Also, without perfect training and experience, tiki-taka can easily get predictable and boring. At the same time, it can be vulnerable against high-pressing systems and lose possession in dangerous zones. Speaking about high-pressing systems, by the mid-2010s, advancements in fitness technologies and training methods significantly elevated players' physical capabilities. Football became faster, more intense, and physically demanding, so now it's time to head to Germany, where the popularity of heavy metal football was just beginning.
Do you guys think that it's more injury prone now? I feel like players get injured a lot easier today, but I don't know because I wasn't watching football until 2022. So I would imagine though, with the increase in speed of the game, intensity and physicality of the game, the injuries just are exponentially higher now, which is crazy.
Having the ball, playing football, all passes, and it's like a orchestra. Yeah.
Which is kind of, so you guys are saying yes, it's kind of crazy because we have all these advancements in medical technology too, and like, so that's crazy. That's crazy to me that with all of the medical advancements that we have in sports medicine and all that kind of stuff, like what you guys are saying, it's the intensity of the games and too many games, more matches and less time to rest. That's the reason. Players used to get like 4 months rest every year. Now, yeah, I remember seeing that like there was a point where Erling Haaland had basically played 361, had been playing for like 361 days without really a time off, which I think that was unique because of international football as well. But it's crazy.
I like that.
I have experienced this not personally with football yet, but definitely in basketball. Because I remember last year when the Mavericks went to the finals, Luka Doncic was hurt, and a lot of people were talking about, well, it's because he plays for Slovenia in the off season, and then they're starting to add so many more exhibition games in the off season that he had basically been playing basketball for almost a year at that point straight without time off. So.
Yeah. I like heavy metal more.
While most teams at this point applied high pressure to regain the ball and maintain long possessions, heavy metal is the complete opposite of tiki-taka, which just don't care about keeping possession. As the name suggests, it's a type of music that is in your face, extremely brutal, yet exciting. Where after losing the ball, they immediately apply high press on the opposition.
I love this tactic.
And after winning, instead of passing it around, they immediately start rapid counterattacks with the aim of only scoring. The purpose was when the
I flippin' love this tactic. Remember, I don't know how many OGs are here. I love Jin pressing. I don't know how many of you guys remember my first reaction to this tactic, but I called it Jin. Getting pressing. I love that tactic though. The high press counterattack. I love it.
Opposition just regained the ball from you and is trying to counterattack. This is the most vulnerable state for them, as they aren't transitioned into their attacking shape, so the ball carrier is still looking for passing options. So the sooner a team tends to press and try to win the ball back, the better is the opportunity for them to counterattack with more numbers and score immediately.
And the counter pressing makes it exactly the same. So you win the ball back in a high on the pitch, and you are close to the goal. So it's only one pass away from a really good opportunity most of the time.
However, with more players pressing the ball carrier, it leaves large gaps behind the press, making the team vulnerable to counterattacks if the press is broken.
Yeah.
So to counter such risk, some teams
It's also not, it can also be countered, but it also is vulnerable just because to play that philosophy, there's so many, it's so hard on the body and on your players. And so it's tough to run this tactic for a long length of time with keeping your squad healthy and stuff. But
use a lighter variation of heavy metal, where only one or two players press the ball carrier, while the rest cover potential passing options. So at this point, by the mid-2010s, along with heavy metal, there was also a revival of a system from Italy that evolved into something far more attacking and entertaining than before. This is the trend of back threes. When you look at the old Catenaccio system with its spare defender at the back, it was more of a defensive tactics. But now that spare man has evolved into a ball-playing defender, while the fullbacks have moved higher to become a hybrid of both winger and fullbacks. This transformed the Catenaccio into a more balanced 3-5-2 shape, which was originally developed by Argentina coach Carlos Bilardo.
So it's a heavier midfield than wait. You guys think give me 1 second. Sorry to interrupt this reaction, but you guys are saying my mic is coming. Oh yeah. What is happening with my mic? It doesn't have my actual mic. What happened? All right. I'm gonna have to fix this after the reaction. Let's just go ahead and finish it. Does it sound okay, guys? Just y'all let me know. Why is my
Bilardo in the 80s. However, in the recent times, it was Antonio Conte who achieved great success with the system in both Serie A and Premier League. As
I have to tell you this. This is not tactic related, but Antonio Conte and his rant about Tottenham has been very therapeutic for me actually in the recent days. Because I really feel like I don't know, I can feel his frustration with the club. And so watching that interview clip with him, I've gone back to it a couple times this last week.
unlike previous system, with 3 proper defenders, the full-backs are free to advance forward to act like wingers, and due to the width being provided by them, the midfielders and strikers can fully focus in dominating the central areas by creating overloads. Also, while defending, it can easily shift into a compact 5-3-2, so the modern version of Catenaccio not only stabilizes the defenses, but also turns teams into dangerous attacking units, with every zone of the pitch occupied by players. But what if we add total football into this, and take to extreme levels? This was exactly what Sheffield United's Chris Wilder and Inter's Inzaghi did. As in their variations, along with the forwards and midfielders rotating with each other, it's not uncommon to see the 3 center-backs push forward into midfield or even into strikers' positions, so this extra feature made it extremely difficult for the oppositions to play against and confuses their structured markings. However, just like the 4-4-2, it has the same weakness. As you will observe, the center mids often functions as a box-to-box players, who has to keep the balance between attack and defense. As a result, there is a lack of dedicated central playmaker, who can connect the 2 sides and provide creativity. So this issue eventually led one of the forward and midfielder turned into 2 narrow playmakers, creating a new variation of 3-5-2. This change provided the much-needed central connection between the midfield and attack, and allowed the double pivots to focus entirely on defending and forming a solid second wall before the back line. Also, due to the flexibility of these 2 playmakers, they can also drop deep and dominate the midfield battle with a 4-man box shape. However, when defending counterattacks, there can be moments where the playmakers will struggle to track back quickly enough. This can leave the double pivots exposed and easily get outnumbered by the opposition. So these 2 positions, and the wingbacks, really requires to have exceptional stamina and work rate to constantly move up and down the channels with precision timing. However, even with its complexities, thanks to the successful implementations by teams like Leverkusen and Sporting, the 3-4-3 and its variations have seen a surge in popularity in recent years. So at this point, when we take a step back and look at the evolution of tactics as a whole, it clearly went from an ultra-attacking style at the start, and then suddenly turned defensive in the middle, and has now understood the importance of having balance between the 2. And eventually, looking in the future, formations and positions may become less important. As with the advancement of training and VR technologies, players will likely have the ability to play in any positions and adapt within the game. Just like we've seen the rise of the false 9, newer concepts like false 10s and even the false defenders are emerging. And additionally, with the rise of social media and video analysis, managers can able to keep their tactics tactics fully private, and they'll need to have multiple systems in their bag against oppositions. So by the looks of it, it's really going to be an exciting future for football. Also, I'd love to know your thoughts on which of these tactics do you think has had the greatest influence on modern football? And
The greatest influence on modern football is probably total football. I think still teams run that total football approach. All right, so that was a great reaction. If you like what you saw in this video, go ahead and smash like on it, and I'll see you in the next one. Wow, that was a 40-minute reaction, guys. So, I'm gonna fix a few things in between now and the next one. So don't just send in your request just yet. Total football by far, yeah, I think that's true. I have got to fix my audio input because I don't know why it's not picking up my it's not picking up my microphone. I actually don't even know if I'll be able to, if I will be able to fix this. I knew I was going to have some technical difficulties today. But I really wish I had my my studio mic working. All right. Let me try to add a studio input. This is great content. Audio input capture. Add a new source. Device. Behringer.
All right.
All right.
How's that? You guys hear that a little bit better now? Delete the fourth one. All right. So there's a little bit better, but now it's all in one side. All right. So audio is better there.
Let's go back to this one. Great content. There's an echo. I'll fix it.
Okay, how is that one? Is it still echoing? Whoa. Yeah, okay. No more echo? Does it sound better now? Sweet. Okay. Yeah, I got to turn it down, though. It's hot. The echo's back. I'll fix it. Great content. Okay, where would the other input be coming from? It's good now? Sweet. All right. So now we'll get to let's do some reaction requests. You guys go ahead and let's get some requests in here. And the next video we're going to be doing is the system era video. It's a little shorter. It's a 10-minute video, so we'll have probably a little less long reaction. But what's up, Rudy? Yeah. Oh, the chat is really far behind. Okay, that's probably okay. I got you. That makes a lot of sense. Because I was like, there shouldn't be an echo. The greatest U.S. soccer final by... Oh, yeah, I think you put that one in my Discord. By the way, guys, I do have a Discord. It's for channel members. It's a really small Discord, which is pretty cool. If you join channel memberships or Patreon, even if you just join once, you have access to it. And I'm not in there kicking people out, so if you want to join, it'd be fun. You can join the cheapest tier. let's put this one. Copy. And let's go to the. Put it there. All right. Discord light mode is crazy. I don't know much about Discord. Am I up for football documentaries? Yeah, I probably will do some of those. So if you've got one, put it in here, but I probably won't do it in this stream. I'll probably do it. I'll have to set like designated, hey, we're going to watch a documentary stream. So many open tabs. I know. Okay. Rabona Lisbon Lions video. Keebs, did you send that one to me? Because I don't know. Oh, it's Rabona TV. Rabona TV. I got you. Let's have a second category for. This is gonna be tough to get through all of these. Oh, you sent it? I got you. Gotcha. So why is it crazy for me to have this in light mode? Is there a different mode that I could use? Copy. A tactical video for how Bayern destroyed Tiki Taka. An old one from 1989, Newcastle Disunited. It was a grim time. That'll be for we'll just do history. All right. I'm going to have a better system than just taking requests like this in the future. In fact, what I should probably do is I should probably set up like a reaction request like Google form or something that you can click in the description and just send it in, and then I can have a list, and instead of having to take them all during the live chat. USA World Cup 2002 and 94. I'm actually going to be doing something pretty cool for those. So I'll hang on to that one because I've got a plan for the USA World Cup stuff. Football's most hated subculture. Jimmy the Giant. Other. And yeah, if you guys can, so what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to do a lot of these requests, but I also want to start adding like things that are happening that are like kind of trending in football right now. So that way I can keep bringing in new audiences on the viewers. Discord polls, I could do that. Yeah. Honestly, we've been talking about having just an open Discord for a long time. I have to have lots of mods for it because I won't be able to be in there all the time with all of my school. So I'll probably open up a separate open Discord just for requests and things like that. Okay. The Laudrup passing compilation. I've been meaning to react to him for a while. It's Michael, right? Michael, well, you guys can know how much I haven't paid attention to the game. In my life. Messi versus Ronaldo is played out. Yeah, I'll probably sprinkle in a Messi Ronaldo video here and there, but I've done so many of them. I'm not against doing another one though, because even though it's played out on my channel, it still brings in good views. So I'll probably do a few of them. Any video reacting to football fans and ultras. Okay. Yeah, that's actually really good. That's a good idea. Football fans and ultras. I could do maybe like what do you guys think about doing like a series of reacting to, like we could like judge specific teams' ultras. That'd be interesting. Yeah, I could make the existing members mods. That's true. That's true. Yeah. That's a good idea, guys. I'll set this one up. I'll probably set that up. Tomorrow I have a day off, but I'm supposed to be doing a lot of schoolwork, but I'll set that up tomorrow. Did you do the video of football players explaining their greatest goals? I did not. Do you know the football players explain their greatest goals? It sounds like an amazing video to react to. That would do really well. The truth about the eye. That sounds interesting. The truth about the eye test versus stats debate. Young Simba. That would be a good video to react to. All right. So we're going to go ahead because I'm going to have to get out of here in Subpoint today. I'm going to go ahead and do another reaction. And I'll have a different setup next time for how we get these requests in. A better way. Because at this rate, we're not getting any of these done in a one stream. Okay. The system era is collapsing, and it's beautiful. That's what we got up next. You want to see me and Corey do a live watch along? Oh yeah, Jojo. I did do a little tiny Spurs rant at the beginning of this stream. It wasn't like a crazy rant though. It was just I was giving my opinion. I want to sack Daniel Levy. I'd rather get rid of him. That's the point. I'm gonna also add a chat box to this stream, because here's what was happening in that last reaction. You guys were having great conversations and I was responding to you, and I'm afraid when people watch the YouTube video later on, they're going to wonder what I'm talking about half the time or what I'm laughing at, and it's just me reading the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and put that over the video. We'll see how that works. All right. Bring Corey on the channel again. I'd love to. I'll talk with him about it. He's at a place where he can't really make content himself, but I'm sure he could come on and talk on my channel. I'll convince him to do it. All right. Let's do this. The system era is collapsing and it's beautiful. Here we go. All right. Why did my sound get muted again? All right. Get this recorded. All right, we are going to react to The System Era is Collapsing, and it's beautiful. As you can tell by the chat in the corner, we are actually live right now on YouTube, and we're testing out a new format, filming these videos live while I try to finish up my last and final semester, writing my senior thesis this semester. So hopefully this helps me get content filmed a little easier. So join us. We're going to try to be doing this every Tuesday. All right. Let's get into this. Why can't I hear anything? That's a problem. You guys can't hear it either, can you? I know why I can't hear it. Because I deleted the output capture. All right. We're going to have to redo that whole intro again because I'm going to have to fix this. Great stream. Great stream, guys. What? Sometimes things happen with technology that makes me scratch my head because this was working perfectly just a second ago, and now I have to completely add a new source. Audio output capture. Headphone. All right, let's try this. What is happening? Now let's try this again. I fixed it.
Football is...
Yes! All right. Here we go. Oh, man. This is going to be... I don't know. That's going to be kind of my thing. Things not going right during my live streams. So let's start this one over again. Get a good intro in here. All right, we are reacting to The System Era is Collapsing, and it's beautiful. I say we because we are live actually right now on YouTube, and we're experimenting with a new system for how to film reactions. We're gonna try to do this every Tuesday morning. For me, Tuesday morning, doing a live stream and doing our reactions this way. Maybe it'll help me be able to write my senior thesis and keep focus on school while also getting content filmed regularly. All right, The System Era is Collapsing, and it's beautiful. Let's get into this.
is on the verge of a revolution. For years now, modern football had reached a stalemate, with every team from top to bottom so tactically astute that they began to cancel each other out. But this era of obsessive perfection and systematic domination has led to something unexpected happening. The artists are taking back control, and they might be better than ever. Tactical organization was beginning to dominate modern football. Every team knew how to press and how to keep the ball, and that also meant that they became experts at nullifying those same tactics. The result? When two well-coached teams met, it increasingly began to look less like a football match and more like a chess match. Players moving in perfect coordination with spaces covered before they could even emerge. And no player felt this more than... For almost all of footballing eternity, the Mercurial 10 was the talisman of every team. The artist whose eye for a killer pass, whose moments of magic were so valuable that managers were happy for them to do nothing defensively, so long as they could conjure something out of nothing when it mattered. They lived for those moments, where time seemed to stop, where one touch, one shimmy, one perfectly weighted pass could change everything. And for a while, the 4-4-2 was the dominant formation in some leagues, a defensive structure that was almost tailor-made for the 10 to find space between the lines, helped by the fact that most teams weren't defensively organized to begin with.
So if I'm understanding this right, it's an era of time where the systems are so good that you're relying on a little bit of magic from a magic player, like a Maradona, like a Zidane, like a Messi. It's interesting.
Environment of the era created by the fans protected them as well. This was before the age of instant statistics and replays, and before every touch was analyzed and every missed pass scrutinized. Fans didn't demand a goal or an assist every game. They came to witness moments of pure imagination, and as long as you could produce magic often enough, the rest was forgiven. The field was their canvas, and the best artists painted game after game. But things quickly began to change. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It may have taken a while, but eventually defensive teams will discover the perfect counter, and thus we saw the rise of the Destroyer, a position almost tailor-made to make the number 10's life a defensive hell. Suddenly, the room that they had enjoyed vanished overnight, not helped by the rise of sophisticated video scouting that meant that the magic tricks of the 10 had been seen ahead of time. If that wasn't bad enough, two more factors led to the destruction of the 10. The first is that the Destroyer began to evolve quicker than the 10. All the 10 was there to do was to provide the magic, but the Destroyer quickly added a second dimension to their game. They became maestros.
Can I just say, it's related to this video? This is extraordinarily well written. A lot of times I watch football videos, and it's not a fault of them, but we lean so heavy into just describing things. This guy is actually, like, this is really well written. Like, as a writer myself, great job crafting language. I really like that.
In possession, knowing that the lazy 10 would not close them down. So now the Destroyer could be the first point of possession with that extra space afforded, practically creating a 3 versus 2 in the midfield. No longer could teams afford to have a defensive passenger in the midfield, regardless of how much magic they produced. Managers needed somebody with the work rate to close their man down. And then the second thing happened. The teams in possession realized that yes, we still want to have the metronome deep, but against a 2-man midfield, having a magician between the lines could still be a good thing. But if it couldn't be a midfielder because they wanted this advantage, then who could it be? It's not that Messi or Pep invented the false 9. The likes of Totti in the 2000s and countless others before him operated similarly, but the Barca domination made this concept more popular. And the last thing a team with a false 9 needs is a 10, and it was the final nail in the 10's coffin. So what happened to them? Well, the ones who could adapt found themselves doing a job out wide and then drifting in, or deeper in more of an 8 role. And those who couldn't, well, it was a slow and painful death. If the magic through the center had been neutered, maybe salvation could be found in the one other position on the pitch synonymous with trickery, flair, and imagination. The position that made the crowd rise to their feet. The winger who would pick up the ball and get past his man with a shimmy of the hips.
Oh, yeah.
And in earlier stages...
Yeah, I agree. To me, there's nothing more fun than watching a really talented winger like break down that player. I love it. I love watching it. Specifically, my favorite thing to watch was actually, I think my favorite like bit of football that I've watched in my life was actually at the Euros with Spain, watching Spain in the Euros, watching Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal just go to work on the wing. It's some of the most fun football to watch, in my opinion.
Of football, most wide defenders were just that, defenders who happened to play wide. They were solid but not agile, so quick and tricky wingers were too slippery to grasp. The remit for most wingers was simple: get past your man, hit the byline, and swing one in to the 2 forwards waiting in the box. And pre the stats era, football wasn't about over-optimization, so the winger had the freedom to constantly try and take on his man, knowing that as long as they produced enough jaw-dropping moments, no one would be fussed about the dribble rate and cross-completion percentage. But just as the tactical revolution had strangled the number 10, the winger began to run out of oxygen. It started when their greatest nemesis began to turn the tables. For so long, the fullback's primary role was to defend. But as the years rolled by, the fullback began to push forward more and more and more. Initially, only rare exceptions were actually threats when they went forward, but soon, the standard for every modern team was to have a hyper-aggressive fullback who could actually make the difference in the final third. And a more aggressive fullback demanded a more defensively astute winger, action and reaction. Suddenly, it wasn't always the silkiest winger who got the nod from managers, but it was the one who was willing to work, to help the cause in the defensive zone and follow their fullback. There were other issues though that were layered in. Defenders were becoming more athletic, able to keep up with wingers in a foot race, and having access to thousands of hours of footage helped defenders cope with them better. But one of the biggest factors was definitely a tactical one. With fullbacks overlapping, there was now less reason for the winger to be looking to hit the byline through complicated but entertaining dribble mechanisms. What made this even more important was the tactical trend of having 2 center forwards. For so long a staple of football was also dying out. and so it was pointless having your best attacking outlet hit the byline for a cross. To make things worse, it wasn't just that they now had one man to hit from the byline. Sometimes they'd have no one at all, due to the decline of the pure 9 and the rise of the false 9 at the same time. With less threat
because he's playing back. I got you. I think I'm tracking with it.
from the 9, the winger was asked to do something different, because now the goal threat had to come out wide. We saw the rise of the inverted winger, and later the inside forward to supply goals. Football's flair position was now football's efficiency position, with the sole goal being to produce goals and assists. The system had fully taken precedence over the individual and the fun. But football has a funny way of correcting itself, because one look around Europe shows an emerging trend. Like a phoenix from the ashes, we began to see the 10 re-emerge. It started when possession sides realized that playing with 3 deep midfielders was great for keeping possession deep,
But not
great
scoring.
for creating opportunities from the most dangerous parts of the pitch. But the pesky destroyer was still a massive deterrent from a dedicated man here. But soon the fullbacks began to invert, meaning that the attacking midfielders now found salvation in the half spaces. It was the potential for the 2 versus 1 against the destroyer, and the option to create like a traditional midfielder or make runs through the half space. And if the defensive midfielder followed, well, that was just more room for the remaining 10 or the false 9 dropping in. The same was true when the 10 was nominally part of the front 3, like Florian Wirtz, but able to come into the space. The 10s had found their new canvas, turning that difficult space between fullback and centre-back into their playground. But once again, defensive teams started to adapt, either through back fives, at least when defending, or hyper-vigilant midfielders who would track every movement. But as the games rolled by, we have also seen attacking midfielders try to adapt by reincarnating the midfield diamond, allowing them to create a 3 versus 2
Cruyffian.
here to give the number 10 space to work their magic creatively, or as a goal threat. But even if teams are evenly matched here, something might be fundamentally changing in football. When every team knows every pass before it's made, every run before it started, and every pattern before it unfolds, what's left?
So predictable.
Pure creativity. The ability to do something unexpected, something no tactical system could predict. When every team knows every pattern, every movement, you need a spark of genius to break the deadlock. A pass from nowhere, whether you're marked or not, or that bit of ingenuity to get past a marker.
Yeah.
And these new creative midfielders, well, they're not just back.
It's the era of Ronaldinho again. We need Ronaldinho again. I like that idea that over time, because football is so systematic, over time it's become sort of mechanical. And because we've gotten so good at it, at the chess game, and so predictable there, that you need the players with a little spark to do some dazzling magic on the pitch. I really like that idea.
They're more complete than ever. Gone are the days of being stuck between the lines, waiting for the team to create the perfect moment. These are complete footballers who can drop deep and dictate play, or drift wide to create overloads, all while being able to thread passes from anywhere on the pitch. And how do you mark that? How do you contain a player who could appear anywhere? But here's what makes them truly lethal. They've learned from the era that tried to kill them. They're more disciplined now, more possession safe when needed. So when the killer ball isn't on, they're willing to keep the game ticking. They're also physically bigger, able to ride challenges that would have floored their predecessors. And perhaps most importantly, they're hyper efficient. Where many 10s before were all about the assist, this new generation has also developed the thirst for goals that modern stats-driven football demands. And speaking of evolution, look at what's happening out wide. The tactical stalemate has created something fascinating. Teams have become so good at negating each other's systems, they've increasingly turned to man marking. This created an unsolvable problem.
One-on-one.
When everybody's matched up perfectly man to man, how do you break through? When the defensive team has seen every pattern of play and every permutation, how can you make the difference? Just how do you get past a seemingly impenetrable deep block? The answer, as it was all those years ago, lies in individual brilliance.
Magic.
Because here's the beautiful irony. When a system is built on perfect man-to-man marking and solely to counter possession sequences, beating one defender doesn't just create a 2 versus 1, it creates chaos. The second defender who steps out, well, he's leaving his man, and that man becomes free, forcing a third defender to adjust, leaving his man free. One piece of skill doesn't...
This really I've been watching a lot of basketball recently, just because the games are normally on when I'm at work, and so I'm able to watch the games. And this is exactly what I love about it, is when a team goes man on man, if you've got some guys who are brilliant and can get past a man, it always opens up Another pass, another pass, another pass. Easy bucket. Easy goal. I love this.
Doesn't just beat a defender, it makes the entire defensive structure collapse like dominoes. But these modern wingers aren't just about flair and crossing like their predecessors. It's not all about the spectacle. They're marrying the skill of the past with the ruthless efficiency of the present. The flair to get past their man paired with the ruthless efficiency of the inside forward. The skill is a means to an end. The revolution is still in its early days, but as teams become more organized, more systematic, the need for these artists will only grow. Because sometimes when two perfect systems meet, you need something more than perfection. You need magic.
Great news, I've just launched my new...
You need magic. What a great video. If you guys get a chance, go check out... Was this Football Made Simple? What? How am I not subscribed to Football Made Simple? Excellent video. The system era is collapsing and it's beautiful. Smash like on the video and I'll see you guys in the next one. And also come join us live on Tuesdays and maybe some other days. Wow. So time will tell if this is the truth. That's true. So that was a really fascinating video. Back here. All right, so I probably got one more in me in this live stream because I have to. Well, actually, maybe I can do two. We'll see. Well, really, I've only got about 30 more minutes that I can film because I have to get faculty approval on my senior thesis today. And most Tuesdays I'll start a little earlier. I started later this time because I was having all the difficulties getting the stream set up. All right, time will tell the truth. Now it's team more important than before, so playing like Ronaldinho, it's not considered amazing anymore. That's why Brazilians are not good anymore. Yeah, but I think with this video, if this video is correct, I think that era is coming back because of the, like he was mentioning, the one-on-ones. Teams are so good at negating each other that you need to have a brilliant player to beat it. The Lisbon Lions is a short video. All right, yeah, you actually sent that one a while back, so we'll go ahead. It's a 12-minute video. Give me 1 second. I want to try. Yeah, I'll try this one now, and then we'll do some of these other ones later. All right. Let's all learn about some Scottish football.
The Estádio Nacional in Lisbon, Portugal.
Okay. All right. We're going to learn a little bit Scottish football here for a second. Let me make sure that I've got everything correct here. So I think you guys have been awesome today. I think that this format is going to work. I really do. I think this is going to be helpful. I've able to carve out some time Tuesday mornings to do this, and then some other time throughout the week to film some other stuff that I couldn't put on YouTube, and then I'll put those on my Patreon. So I may be able to some weeks do multiple streams, but I do think that this is going to be helpful, and hopefully I can be free on sometimes to do some game watch-alongs, and hopefully we'll get Corey back on the channel too. So a lot of things, but I'm having to write a 25-page paper this semester, so I'm going to be a little busy. All right, get my head wrapped around it. Oh, by the way, guys, my I haven't put it up yet. My room is a wreck after I got back from my vacation. I'm gonna put this up somewhere in the background. I got this. This was super cheap at a bookstore, and I was like, bro, let me grab that. I'm gonna probably get to doing Ted Lasso reactions again. That'll be fun. Cannot do those live. I will get blocked. The embarrassing decline in Brazilian football. Dude, that video, I saw several people reacted to that one, and I was about to do it, and I just never got back to it. I'll put that one on the list. All right, let's go. Recording. All right, we're learning some Scottish football today. Within 30 miles of Celtic Park, Celtic's Lisbon Lions European Cup miracle. All right, this is one of the requests from a channel member, and today we're doing reactions live on YouTube. If you can check it out on Tuesday mornings, we're filming these reactions live, and yeah, come join us. We'll have a lot of fun.
The Estadio Nacional in Lisbon, Portugal saw something that may never be repeated in football on a sunny Thursday, May 25th, 1967. No British team had won the European Cup before, let alone even make it to the final after 11 tries. Celtic made it there for the 12th edition. But while that was a record in its own right, the composition of the team is what's truly awe-inspiring. Hey there, I'm Adrian and welcome to Rabona TV Quarantine.
It's been a long time since I've done a Rabona TV reaction. I've had several reactions to his videos before. He always has really well-researched videos, so shout out to you.
Edition. A slower drip of content at this time, but the content will continue. Thanks to my guy João Oliveira for suggesting this video. If you have a suggestion, don't be shy about leaving it in the comments. That said, I left my sources in the description for you. Now, let's go back to the 60s for one of the best, most feel-good stories in the history of the game.
So you've come to Glasgow, have you? Pretty grim, isn't it?
Glasgow, before and during the 1960s, was a working-class industrial hotbed, a rough and tumble city that had its fair share of violence and poverty, and of course, the sectarianism that was prevalent throughout the town. In fact, according to Professor Sir Tom Devine as he spoke to the BBC, it was also the most densely populated city in Western Europe at that time. You can imagine the lifestyle and the people that would be formed by this type of city. Tough, proud, and hardworking. One of these hardworking men was John Jock Stein, who, before he was captaining Celtic himself, was working in the coal mines. After playing in Wales, he found his way back to Scotland via Celtic, captaining them to a few trophies, but also...
I love how the old, the older footballs were stitched this way, and I really want to know. I'm no historian. Hey, where did my hand egg go? My hand egg. It's normally right here. I wonder, I don't know the history of it, but I wonder if that's why we lace our footballs up in America like this. It's just interesting to see the laces on the old footballs.
Ultimately being forced to retire due to ankle injuries. It turned out to be a blessing in disguise, however, for both club and Stein, as fate would put Stein in charge of the Celtic youth side, where he developed the young talent and, of course, his own coaching ability. However, that sectarianism that I mentioned earlier would become a problem for Stein in that Robert Kelly, the club chairman, said that Celtic would not be able to promote Stein to the first team manager role given he's a Protestant. In case you need reminding, the overly simplified...
Oh yeah, there was a... I know the history of this. The Catholic and Protestant persecution of each other at this time, for sure. It was very, very, very bad in Ireland.
Explanation to this is that the Old Firm derby between Celtic and Rangers is rooted in a religious divide.
Not Ireland, Scotland, but it also is bad in Ireland too.
Being Catholic and Rangers being Protestant. So Stein signed with Dunfermline in 1960 as their coach, leaving Celtic, at least temporarily, with a very heavy heart, leaving behind those young talents he had helped develop. Though in 1965, Kelly contacted Stein to come back to the club, as Celtic were, at this time, trophyless for 7 years now. Stein is credited with getting both Dunfermline and Hibs on their feet, and he was tasked to do the same by Kelly at Celtic. However, the roots of the operation had been laid out in the 1950s by Kelly himself, as he allegedly looked to the success Manchester United's Busby Babes had in signing many local youth players to their academy. Celtic did the same, calling them Kelly's kids, and by the time Jock Stein had returned to Celtic in
Real original, Kelly's kids.
1965, many of these local teenagers had matured to the level of the senior team at Celtic. Place these talented Glaswegians and the surrounding area teams with an extremely talented manager in Jock Stein, and you have a potent pairing. Jock Stein's presence was felt immediately at Celtic as he was able to unlock the potential that these boys possessed. This team of Scottish talents that had been playing far too below their potential for years. After just 2 weeks with the club, Celtic won the Scottish Cup with a 3-2 victory over Dunfermline, snapping their trophyless run. As this story from the Times newspaper on the 26th of April 1965 says, perhaps it is the spirit rather than the skill that Mr. Stein has instilled since his return to Parkhead a short time ago. In fact, with Stein at the helm, Celtic went on to win the league as well during the 1965-66 season, and in the 66-67 season, the 67-68, and on for 9 consecutive seasons. In total, they won the league 10 times under Stein and the Scottish Cup 8 times. That first season under Jock Stein saw them win a league and cup double, and thus they qualified for the 66-67 European Cup, their first qualification in the club's history.
For the boys.
During the 1966-67 season, they had picked up where they left off, scoring 26 goals in their first 6 matches alone domestically.
Jeez.
This attacking style of
26-6. That's a heck of a run right there.
play from Stein and the boys bled into the European form as well, as they eased through the first 2 rounds.
Nearly
of the
5 a
competition.
game.
Remember, there is no group stage at this point. First round, second round, quarterfinals, semifinals, final.
Just over 4. Sorry, I'm terrible at math.
Their first opponents were the Swiss champions FC Zurich, with Celtic's free-scoring left-back Tommy Gemmell scoring 3 of the 5 goals that Celtic put past the Swiss side. It wasn't uncommon for Gemmell to be a standout performer, just as it wasn't uncommon for Jimmy Johnston, who grew up a few miles away from him, to steal the show for Celtic. Johnston did just that against their next opponent, FC Nantes from France. Johnston was an incredibly skilled player, twisting and turning down the Celtic flanks, match in, match out, demanding the attention of the Nantes defenders in order to open up space for his teammates. Though Nantes were more of a challenge in comparison to Zurich, Johnston and the boys provided far more than they could handle, winning both legs 3-1 for a 6-2 aggregate victory. Celtic's next opponent provided their biggest test on the way to the final. Vojvodina, a team from present-day Serbia, but back then, of course, from Yugoslavia. Playing away in the first leg, Celtic suffered their first defeat of the competition as a lone goal from Milan Stanic gave the hosts the win and the lead as they traveled to Glasgow for the second leg. Playing under the lights of Celtic Park, Chalmers...
Bro, that photo is so cool. I don't know why that photo looks so cool, but the ground kind of just blending in with the sky and the couple lights up in the stands. That photo that's such a cool photo.
Put Celtic back on level footing with a first half goal. As the second half wore on, the threat of heading to extra time loomed. But when Celtic most needed their captain and talisman Billy McNeil, he stepped up, rising for a header in the 90th minute that flew into the back of the net, producing this iconic image where even in using his hands, the Vojvodina defender couldn't keep the header out. 2-1 Celtic, and their incredible run continued. Willie Wallace was new to Celtic for the 66-67 season and was new to the European Cup when he made his debut in the semi-final against Dukla Prague. Prior to signing with Celtic, his form had begun to wane at Hearts, but Stein believed he could help him find his way back on track, and that belief in the 25-year-old was repaid on his European debut, scoring a brace in a 3-1 Celtic win at Parkhead. A draw would be good enough to see Celtic to secure the tie away in Prague, and a draw was what Celtic achieved. A place in the final is what they won. The first British team to make the European Cup final is the label they'll have forever. But at this time, they still had business to take care of domestically before they could even think of taking on the titans that were Internazionale or Inter Milan. In October, they had won the Scottish League Cup with a 1-0 victory over Rangers. Just over a week later, they secured the Glasgow Cup, beating Rangers, Queen's Park, and Partick Thistle all 4-0 respectively. At the end of April, they won the Scottish Cup with a 2-0 victory over Aberdeen. In the league, however, Rangers were right on their tail and were their opponents on the penultimate match day.
Isn't that how it always is? Like, that's the history of Scottish football, right? Rangers and Celtic always, they're never far from each other. Feels like it.
Given that Celtic were fresh off of their second loss of the season, both of which came against Dundee United, Rangers were just a few points behind them and had the advantage of playing at Ibrox for what was a title decider. Just as they had done in every other competition thus far in this historic season, Celtic got the result they needed, a 2-2 draw to secure the league title with a match to spare, ensuring that they had won every competition they had played in thus far, a domestic treble or a quadruple if you want to count the slightly less fancied Glasgow Cup as well. Watching from the stands was Inter Milan's legendary coach Helenio Herrera, the man who had led Inter to 2 successive European Cup titles in '64 and '65. If it weren't for eventual champions Real Madrid, he would have brought them to a 3rd consecutive European Cup final in 1966 as well, but they lost in the semis 2-1 on aggregate. Herrera was widely regarded as one of the best coaches in the world, and to this day one of the best of all time. A man who eclipsed the players he had on the pitch and who helped elevate the popularity of Catenaccio to unprecedented levels in Italy and Europe, with his own take on this tactical system of play. So despite their fantastic domestic season and their near flawless run to the final, Celtic was only ever considered to be the underdog in the final against Herrera's Inter. It was the defensive emphasis of Herrera's Catenaccio versus Steen's all-out attacking style with a virtual 4-2-4 system. Despite being fancied by few, Steen's team had belief in themselves, with Johnson embodying that belief as he demanded the attention of Inter's Facchetti, asking if he was in charge of marking him. A tough task to take on, despite the...
This guy, I don't know. I just love how this guy looks. Like, he just looks like the guy on the pitch. You don't want to mess with him. You don't want to mess with him. He looks like both not intimidating and slightly intimidating at the same time. Like you could just flip a switch and this guy could go crazy on you. It feels like
the mismatch in size. Johnson was on it from the start, jinking around Inter defenders and testing Sarti early. Unfortunately though, the first goal fell to Inter after a penalty was awarded in the 7th minute. When a team like Herrera's takes the lead early like that, there was typically one outcome. They set up shop for the rest of the 90 minutes and see the result out. A total blackout as they try to control the game defensively, and often did. But sticking to their game plan, Celtic continued to attack, their own way of controlling the match. Attack after attack, close opportunities go wide, over the bar, off the bar, into Sarti's hands, but not where it mattered most. That is, until Craig rolled the ball to his left at the top of the 18, where Tommy Gemmell ripped it past Sarti to level the match in the 63rd minute. The left back scoring yet another important goal. Inter were shell-shocked, while Celtic continued to run ragged all over the pitch. This team of local boys was cutting through the Catenaccio, forcing Sarti into save after save. That is until the 84th minute rolled around and Chalmers redirected Bobby Murdoch's strike past Sarti, 2-1 Celtic, 2-1 to the men who were all born within 30 miles of Celtic Park and who were joined by thousands more Glaswegians on the pitch at the final whistle. I feel like it goes without saying at this point, but let's go over why this was so impressive regardless. This Celtic team wasn't just made up entirely of talent from Scotland, but every single player grew up within 30 miles of Celtic Park.
That's really cool. You don't really hear of that very often. Where you grew up, it's always like a cool, heartwarming story when a team has a local guy who's really good. But to have your entire team be local, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Park. By today's standards, even Bobby Lennox, who had to travel 27 miles from Saltcoats to Glasgow, would be considered a local for most teams. And he was on the far end as far as proximity to Celtic Park. The opposite of which...
Also, for those of you who know, because I don't, how far is 30 miles or 27 miles in, like how long, okay, let me get the question out. What's the distance of Scotland? So how long, I'm trying to get relationally, because 27 miles for me is it's just one town over. I don't know how many miles, how big Scotland actually is. I'm trying to proportionally understand the size of the country. Anyway, that doesn't matter at all. Just wondering.
Being Stevie Chalmers, who grew up with a view of Celtic Park, the man who scored the winning goal in the final. This group of like-minded individuals who had all grown up with a certain kind of hardship of their own, whether it be as one of the first survivors of tuberculosis, as Chalmers was, or living amongst poverty, as much of the team grew up. Whatever their respective case may have been, they were a unified group, a group that went from playing on the streets of Glasgow to winning the European Cup. This was a truly local team, a local team that did something that, with the way modern teams are constructed, feels like it will never be replicated. Just think of it. Only one player on this team was born over 15 miles away from Celtic Park, Bobby Lennox. Thus, the often used born within 30 miles of Celtic Park is used instead. If not for Lennox, their proximity would be even closer. When a team from Glasgow won the trophy, it was a team predominantly of Glaswegians that won the trophy, not stars brought in from overseas. And to me, it puts other conquests in perspective now, as multinational sides win a trophy for a club in an area that they often have nothing more than a professional relationship with, at least
That's a good point.
when they are initially signed as personal.
That's a good point. That does kind of make that special for it to be made up of local talent, like, because you got people from all over the world playing in clubs, and they're winning trophies for their club, but not necessarily do they have a tie to the city that the club is in. I just looked this up, by the way. 274 miles across. That's the distance across Scotland. And so that's pretty, I mean, so Dan is saying Scotland is big, but it has a really centralized population. Most people live in one of two cities. And even then, I guess it's just relative, because 274 miles, let me see, how many miles is Texas across? Yeah, Texas is 800 miles. 801 straight line miles from north to south, and 700 from east to west. And that's just one state. So I'm trying to I don't know why I am. It's just interesting to compare the sizes. Puts it in perspective to me the size of the state that I grew up in. Anyway,
relationships with their surroundings can develop, of course, but it feels like never again a feat like this will be replicated. Local boys at the top of the European football pyramid, especially not in the post-Bosman era. Thanks so much for watching.
Yeah.
My name is Adrian. I love you, and take care.
Scotland is taller than it is across too, but obviously, yeah, no, and I'm not, there's no reason to compare it. I was just trying to relationally put it, like, related to what I'm familiar with, what's the size there. Because what I was really trying to figure out was if these guys were all grown up 30 miles from their club, I just didn't know how small Scotland was or how big it was. So, because anyway, well, guys, if you liked the video, smash like on it for me. Go subscribe to Rabona TV. He's got a lot of awesome content just like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Boom. There's another reaction down. All right, guys. I do think that this is a format that we will definitely keep up with during this last semester of mine. Dan says he didn't mention it, but Jock Stein went on to manage the Scottish national team, and his assistant manager was Alex Ferguson. Wow, okay. So he was the mentor to Alex Ferguson. That's a really interesting point. But anyway, I think we're going to stick to this format. I really like the ability to interact with you guys, kind of get a bunch of content filmed at once, minimal editing on my part. It'll be a way for me to keep content rolling while also staying focused on my schoolwork. So I do think we're going to keep doing that. Seedorf is in my all-time 11. I'll definitely add some of that stuff. So what we're going to do, hopefully, I always make promises. I'm really bad about making promises. I'm going to try tomorrow to set up a public Discord specifically for this reason, for doing reaction requests and things like that. I'm going to take a lot of you that are members, actually the members only guys, if you join the public Discord, I'll make you guys mods in there so that you guys can keep a closer tabs on what's going on in there. Like I said, with me being so busy with school, I'm not going to have a lot of time to be managing what's going on in the big Discord, but we'll set that up and I'll try to hang out as much as I can. The team I support used to recruit almost entirely local. It was arguably its golden age, but when things became more professional, that ended. Yeah, it makes sense that would happen. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and call this a great stream. That was awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, someone says you can do a Google form and share it on your community tab for people to submit video. Yeah, I'll put that, and I'll put those in the descriptions as well of my videos, as well as you can just go post the link in the public Discord when I get that set up. And that'll be a way we can handle that. All right, guys, but I'll see you guys later. I'm not going to promise, but I may be live tomorrow as well. But that's a maybe. That depends on a lot of things. All right, guys. See y'all. Y'all have a good time. And guys, go ahead. I don't know how many likes we've got on the stream, but if you've been watching the stream and you haven't liked the stream, go ahead and smash the like button for me. And Champions League tomorrow. Yeah, I might try to do a watch party. It depends on how my faculty meeting goes tomorrow. But anyway, I'm gonna hop out of here, get ready for my my senior seminar.